We'll see. We'll see. But okay. So
That was a lot.
NVIDIA has committed to $500 billion in U.S. manufacturing. So is this a sign that Trump's tariffs are actually working? And how will that affect NVIDIA?
Once again, I want to say the idea that he has with the tariffs is right. The execution is poor. So it's like a team that looks great on paper, like the Lakers with Shaq and Gary Payton and Karl Malone. On paper, fantastic. And actual playoff execution is kind of tough. What I do love, though, is that NVIDIA is stepping up for this decade to be the company that represents America, like how Apple did last decade. The great thing about NVIDIA as well, their profit margin is high. So when I've stressed to invest in companies with high profit margin, any companies that had a 5 to 8% profit margin, the tariffs is tearing that business model apart. So do I think this will benefit them long term? Yes. But going back to American exceptionalism, there are not a lot of companies that represent that in America. I think it's a beacon of hope. And it's our brightest company right now in the United States of America. Will it drive the price up of the stock solely based off that? Not solely as a reason, but it definitely will be a catalyst for sure.
Yeah, the profit margin.
The tax breaks are going to be incredible as a result.
Their profit margin is at 55%, which is insane.
Incredible. For a multi-trillion-dollar company, incredible.
It's ridiculous. Is it working? I think the idea of onshoring manufacturing, when you have all these companies and the commitments that they made, I'll run them down. NVIDIA, $500 billion, Apple, $500 billion, Amazon, $100 million this year, TSM, $100 billion, not $100 million, Amazon, $100 billion this year, TSM, $100 billion this year, Microsoft, $80 billion this year, Meta, $65 billion this year. Those are the commitments for 2025. That tells you that there is something happening inside of the AI space, and there's been a commitment. And all those CEOs, pretty much outside, maybe TSM, have sat down with the president, and I'm sure that was part of the conversation. But those plants, getting them up, are the most important thing. In fact, Jensen said that they plan to mass produce their supercomputers within 12 to 15 months. But this time next year, they should be up and running and manufacture. Obviously, they don't manufacture their chips. TSM does. And this is the reason why for the past 4 years, we've been saying TSM. Watch what they're doing in Arizona. Look at the commitment that they're making. I know NVIDIA is having their plants, some of their data centers being built in Texas. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. The land, the temperature, and obviously no state tax doesn't hurt at all. It helps actually a lot. Seeing the future advancement of AI and their chips happening here is a huge lift, but it also says something about the geopolitical tension of what could have happened if something happened to TSM. That reliance on having that offshore is slowly dwindling. So is it working? Short term, the execution of it terrible. Long term, if they're able to get these data centers up and running to a high level of efficiency, it'll make sense.
If I pledge $65 billion and I got to go to another hearing, I'm calling Nancy Pelosi. I know a couple of years ago I was on Mark. Mark, he bought a house and now he got to buy a house in Mar-a-Lago. Like, come on, man. Do we want exceptionalism in our companies or no?
They gave him 3 years off. At one point he was in front of Congress every 3 months, and November 20, the stock took a huge hit. And we talk about Meta and Mark Zuckerberg. Their court case started today. They're potentially trying to break up Meta. Almost
for
saying,
what?
Well, that just goes to show you when you try hard, that's when you die hard. And
hey, that's a great point.
When he was somebody that had issues with Trump before, and did everything he did to make a peace treaty, gave $1 million, moved to DC. Was that UFC?
Waved the American flag.
The whole thing. And it didn't seem to help out in his case, still got jammed up at the end. So we'll see how this plays out. But I think it's about WhatsApp and Instagram.
They're trying to break it up, make them separate companies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes in life you kiss the ring and you still get punished. So take that how you want.
It's not profitable to make enemies, yo. You got to
Take
think
that.
about this long term.
Take that how you want.
They said that they haven't seen a corporate breakup, a potential corporate breakup like this since AT&T's telephone monopoly 40 years ago.
Yep.
For the youngins, there was they
My
probably
Bell.
remember Bell Atlantic.
Man,
Remember that?
It's not good, man. I tell you what, that's not good. That's not good news for Meta for sure. But
I think they'll make it through. But yeah, I wouldn't want to have to go through this every quarter. It feels like just when you thought you was clear, I'll come back to court, my boy.
that's a fact.
Mm-mm.
That's a fact. And that's
Yeah.
why, once again, it's advisable to invest in ETFs.
Yeah.
Because anything can happen with an individual company, even the strongest companies. You might have problems with the government.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. So the government is saying that Meta, and tell me the company that hasn't done this. Amazon's probably guilty of this as well. Allegedly, the buy and bury strategy, which is, you buy up your competitors or anybody that you seem as a threat, and have all the businesses under your umbrella.
That's the purpose of a parent company. And we can argue when they paid that $1 billion for Instagram, no other tech company wanted to pay that for that company.
Yeah.
Like that was record breaking at that time to pay $1 billion for a startup. It was 15 employees.
Yeah, they were laughed at. There's this Jon Stewart clip where he's actually, he's a comedian for
Absolutely
mocking him for paying $1 billion for a picture app. Right. And now they're using that text saying, there's allegedly a text message thread between Mark and some of the execs saying that, hey, we got to buy this competitor because it could be a threat to our Facebook. And they did $1 billion. Now that I think what's the valuation for over $100 billion?
And Instagram was not profitable at that time. Shout out to Mikhail, shout out to Kevin System. Like that, it wasn't a money making machine. How people want to have like revisionist history on. It was losing money. That's part of the reason why they sold.
When the guy got the cover of Forbes, and they was like, Instagram has never made money. Like what makes it pay? He's like, that's not true. We have made money. He's like, when have you made money? He's like, we made $1 billion. We made $1 billion.
For sure.
So that's one of the greatest acquisitions in world history.
And they got blocked from buying what?
TikTok.
Well, 2 years later, after they bought
Instagram,
they bought WhatsApp for $19 billion.
And if they can't buy it, then they just copy. They did it with Vine. They didn't buy Vine, but they literally
all forgot about Vine.
Because remember, Vine used to have the 8-second videos, 7-second videos. Then Instagram comes out with 10-second videos. Snapchat, the filters, the stories, all that comes from Snapchat.
Snap is still here.
It's early.
But that's part of the case, is that how many people can now compete in the social media realm? If Facebook owns Instagram, what's it like?
TikTok.
That's the government. That's the government's, and that is a foreign entity.
Snap is
that's the government's case. Yeah, they're still here. They didn't ban it. Vine, doesn't even exist.
Spiritu Santo. It's over with.